There's something special about riding trains, and there's something always special about interesting and strange weather. Hi, welcome to the Book Corner with me, Mish Atagana. Let's discover new worlds together. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Book Corner. I hope your Christmas was great and you had amazing food and amazing time with family and you read incredible books and watched lots of movies and did the bare minimum, which is how I spent my Christmas. It was reading, eating, walking, and just having the best time. And it's almost the new year. What are some of your intentions? Do you guys do intention setting for the new year, or do you just hope for the best? I'm a hope for the best person. The only kind of thinking I do is like give myself a new goal for how many books I'm going to read in 2026. So at the beginning of 2025, my goal for 2020 five books was I was going to read at least 120 books. Thank you very much. And for 2026, I think I want to try to read 130 books by the end of 2026. Fingers crossed. I've got 2 more books to finish before the year ends, so I'm excited. We're almost at that time. I hope you guys have amazing New Year's Eve plans. Mine are very chill. I'm a creature of habit. I do the same thing. I just want to read for the New Year. That's literally my New Year's Eve plan, is to read. So I hope that when New Year's Eve comes around for you in a few days, that you guys do the thing you love the most. Well, shall we get back into today's episode? So today's episode, and a fitting episode to end the year on, and our season finale. What a great season we've had. And I hope that the adventure has been amazing for you as you come along for the ride. As 2 books that I really enjoyed. We began the season in Japan and we're going to end the season in Japan. Okay. We have 2 books today. Strange Weather in Tokyo and Passages on the Hankyu Line. I picked up Strange Weather in Tokyo when I was in Tokyo, and Passages on the Hankyu Line I got also when I was in Tokyo. Actually, both books I bought when I was in Japan earlier in the year. And what I love about both books is that they kind of they what's the word? They restructured my brain a little in terms of the way I think about stories and storytelling. And I think maybe that's also why this season I've focused a lot on Japanese authors, is because like reading these books, they are my grounding force. They feel like quiet therapy sometimes, and they also feel like happy places. So I really love that about some of the books that I've talked about this season. But let's start with these 2 books and why I'm choosing them for this episode. So they're both like very luminous in terms of like the way they look at the ordinary. Like the ordinary can be like extraordinary. So they do that. Like for instance, Passages on the Hankyu Line, it gives you a little bit of intersection of vignettes of along a rail line. Like, people ride trains all the time, but we get to experience life beyond the train ride, within the train ride, if that makes sense. And with Strange Weather in Tokyo, it just gives us like these 2 people who are learning to stand next to each other with a sense of vulnerability and a sense of openness. So I enjoyed that. I'm gonna start with Strange Weather in Tokyo. So Strange Weather in Tokyo, we follow the story of I feel like I'm gonna butcher this name, but Kukiko to Kukiko. Guys, I can't say this name. It's a 37-year-old woman. And she's single, she's living in Tokyo. She works an honorary office job, and she spends most of her free time by herself in her small flat. And she reads, she cooks, and she likes simple food. Like literally, her life is super mundane. And she doesn't really, she likes talking aloud, but not to anyone in particular. And she literally tells herself that she's content with the quiet. She likes being in the quiet. She likes the way her life is set. And she's okay with it. But one evening, she goes to a regular neighborhood bar, and which is run by a man called Satoru. See, I can say his name. She notices an elderly gentleman sitting there and realizes that it's her former high school teacher. And obviously, because the former teacher, she calls him Sensei, and they can't remember. She cannot remember his name. Actually, a lot. She can't remember his name at the beginning of the book, so she keeps calling him Sensei. And they start chatting over like small plates of food and sake, and this kind of meeting becomes a part of their routine and a new pattern for her life, right? So over the weeks and months that kind of follow, it's both of them finding themselves in the bar at the same time. They don't make plans. So they don't go, we're going to meet at the bar on this day at this time. They just happen to find each other at the bar. They drift towards each other. They order, they share drinks, they eat food. They talk about trivial things like mushrooms and grammar and correct grammar. They talk about baseball, which is huge in Japan. And they talk about the weather. They talk about the weather a lot. And sometimes they leave together and they walk around the neighborhood. Other times they kind of go home separately. And although he's like several decades older than her, she begins to feel more at ease with him and than she does with people her own age, which is interesting. He's like slightly old fashioned in like the way he talks and the way he behaves. He's very fussy about specific things. Like he won't let her pour like drinks for him. He has very like strict ideas about language and etiquette. And he's like his quiet loneliness, mirrors her own kind of isolation and solitude that she's going through. And the relationship is super formal, super polite, but there's intimacy in the way that their little rituals become patterns in their lives. So which dishes they order, how they pour each other's drinks, how they tease each other and correct one another. These become things that become super ingrained in their life. And there's like small intimacies that we begin to see between them. One evening, they have a unexpected argument over baseball, as one does, and they have like this disagreements kind of escalates beyond sports, and it ends with like hurt feelings. And they have like a small scale breakup, if you can call it that. And for a while, they simply just they don't see each other, and she begins to find the absence hurts her more than she thought it would. And through this gap, she realizes how much he means to her and how much he's become part of her life. Eventually, they reconcile, and not after that, not long after that, they're invited to go mushroom hunting in the countryside with the bar owner. And this outing is so awkward at first because they haven't spoken to each other in a while, so they feel like they're in strange company. But as they kind of move around the woods, they begin to realize like the way they feel about each other and the fact that she starts to realize that this Sensei's presence is so important to her life. So later, Sensei actually invites her to a cherry blossom viewing party. Also, guys, can someone please invite me to a cherry blossom viewing party? Like, what is a cherry blossom viewing party? Just out of curiosity, like, is there like, do you just like go somewhere and just stare at the cherry blossoms as they bloom? Is that what it is? I want to be invited to a cherry blossom viewing party so badly. Like if you invite me right now, I will find a way to be there at this cherry blossom viewing party in time. So anyway, they go to a cherry blossom viewing party, and there's like a lot of like themes of jealousy that begins to like show up here. Like for instance, she reconnects with one of her other classmate, Takashi, and he remembers like this person is someone she really liked when they were in high school, who was also one of Sensei's students, and it's also someone her own age that she was connecting with. And the whole time, literally, she is thinking about, do I want to reconnect properly with this person, or do I want to build this thing with this other person who is decades older than me. And I think that also seeing her with someone else really forces him, Sensei, to confront his own feelings about her and whether or not he'd been pushing her away because of the age thing and his dead wife and all of this stuff. It's like when I say that, this book takes you on this journey in a way that is so abnormal um and yet so intricate in the storytelling. It is not an understatement. Like these characters, like they, like the first time, for instance, like they go to they have like this getaway somewhere in the mountains, and they're both in separate rooms, but they're both like wanting to go to the same room. And the idea of like the discomfort of sleeping at such close proximity and things like that, it's just so interesting to me. Like, and also like they have like another disagreement, and they had so many, like all these disagreements and reconciliation, and there's a lot of tension. And again, like she ends up like telling him she loves him, and that moment, like a storm just breaks out. Like it's literally like the storm, and there's like rain and thunder, and it just crashes around them. And it feels like the weather is echoing Hatomo. I mean, it's called Strange Weather in Tokyo. Like it's echoing Hatomo, and he doesn't respond, and which, I mean, we always say silence is his own response. Like he doesn't say anything to her, but he just holds her hand and like just comforts her through the storm. This relationship is kind of like it twists, it kind of shapes into something new at this point. And I love that, the idea of love, loneliness, and understanding oneself plays a huge role here. And there's like this whole briefcase that this man also carries around. Like they just simply together, like their romance is very unconventional. But it's super modest, and it's like full of the same routines: food, drink, shared evenings. But you can recognize the tenderness underneath, now that we know how they feel, and they both, from their individual point of views, we get to see like their true feelings. So that's like really interesting about this book. It's like, it's such a strange book, but it's such a worthwhile read. And it has a companion story. I haven't read the companion story. I actually want to read the companion story. And I also don't want to tell you how it ends, because I don't want to spoil it for you. But the relationship is so critical in terms of how her life gets shaped, and how she begins, to think about the idea of loneliness, and if she's happy with a solitude. And then, Passengers in the Hankyu Line for me is another one of those things where we are getting to watch people's lives. Remember when I was talking about the Coffee Gets Cold series, and I talked about how it felt like I was sitting in the cafe and watching these people. This book feels a little bit like that, where I'm sitting in the train and all these people are coming through on the train. So this particular book focuses on 5 central threads. Like, there's this one young man who's obsessed with a mystery woman that he's met at a library, an angry wedding guest in a bridal dress, a homesick university student, a woman trapped in an abusive relationship, a widow and a granddaughter considering getting like a pet dog. And these 5 central threads or 5 central characters really shape our story. So the novel is structured in as 2 trips, if you will. So the same stretch line of this train line, and it's all 6 months apart. So the first one is the outward journey, which is where everybody's headed from somewhere. So like the bride and the wedding guest in the bridal outfit, it's headed somewhere. And then we see the return journey. So it's like, I think it's broken up between spring and autumn, the story. So our first trip would meet the first 5 passengers. They're at different points in their lives. And on the second, we see how the situation has shifted. So we get to see how, from where we met them, how their lives have kind of changed, and how the situation in their lives has kind of changed. And the stories also slightly intersect in many ways. So for instance, the angry wedding guest is able to witnesses a few of those, because sometimes as we tell the story, some of the guests are on the train together. So they're all riding the train at the same time. So we see the point of view of how, say, the angry wedding guests experience the story, the girl in the abusive relationship as right, and we see how vice versa she experienced that, and we see how the university student point of view of another person's situation. So that happens a lot. So I'll start with the library, the boy in the library and the mystery girl. It's literally like this office worker who regularly goes to the library to borrow a book. In my mind, I wish, like, I wonder if this worlds could connect. I would just imagine him going to the library, the basement library, in the what you're looking for is in the library book. So he goes to his local library to borrow a book. He keeps missing out on a particular book that he wants, because every time he goes to check it out, the last copy has always been taken by the same woman, and he always steps so she's always like a step ahead of him, in the queue or on the reservation list. So one day while they're on the Hankyu line, he realizes that woman is sitting nearby. Is sitting next to on the train is actually the person who's been borrowing the books that he wants. And he sees this book and she's holding it and recognizes her name on the reservation slip as well. I mean, stalker much, but sure. And on the outward journey, he mostly watches her from a distance, rehearsing ways to speak to her, losing his nerve. Like, his dilemma is so, like, it feels so real. Like, he wants to go talk to her, but a part of him like also doesn't want to, because he's mostly like recognized that because of the book, and it just feels like somehow like she is this fated person, right? And all they share is like this borrowing history. So over the months between the journey, they keep crossing paths in the library and on the train, but they never quite manage a conversation, and until they find themselves on the same carriage again on the return journey. And he finally forces himself to speak to her. And I love that we've kind of followed them over the 6 months, where he knows this is the person that's borrowing the books that I want, and he's drawn to her. He wants to talk to her, but he doesn't. Eventually, it takes him 6 months to eventually speak to her. So I quite love that we see this play out in this way. And then there's like the story of the angry wedding guest whose boyfriend of, I think it was something like 5 or 7 years, breaks up with her to get married to someone he had like a 6-month affair with. And she shows up at the wedding in this insane white dress, and she looks like the bride, and everybody's on her side because like their entire office, expected him and this person to get married. Actually, they were engaged. He broke off the engagement. So on the journey, we kind of see how she's like this jilted lover trope is played out. Like, it's super petty. The way she kind of obviously handles the situation is like spiteful and very hurtful, but she's also hurt, and passengers silently judge her on the train. And I'd like 6 months later, we see her like, this time like in her regular clothes, and she bumps into one of the other characters in the earlier chapters, and it becomes clear that she started to rebuild her life. Like, she has a new job, she got a new haircut, she's laughing at the memory of the white dress stunt. She's no longer like performing to her pain. She's moved on from this hurt and this thing, and this is the way we see all these stories, all 5 of these stories play out, where we meet them. There are moments of either hurt or confusion or trying to make a decision or stuck. And by the time we see them 6 months later, we see how in the last 6 months, their life has unfolded, and how the people they inadvertently impacted on the line, also their lives have changed and their lives have unfolded. So I really enjoyed that in terms of just being able to exist in this world where the story is completely told through these train rides, and how these train rides kind of exist, and their lives and their stories get told in there. Like, I think when I look at these 2 books, for me, like, one is like, talk about how our intimacy can kind of blossom with routine, and the others kind of says like how routines can also be crafted in the heart of a city. And there's like this there's a lot of attention to ethics because in Strange Weather in Tokyo, Sensei is very like super guided by his morals, and like I said, he's like a very strong traditionalist. And in the Passengers of the Hankyu Line, there's so many issues that get discussed around like understanding what is the right behavior. So like the angry wedding guest, or how the girl who's in the abusive relationship, how she turns that around, and the ways that they kind of use some of these personal ethics to think about their life. So I really enjoyed that, and I also enjoyed the fact that these books as well, they're so different in their own ways, but some of the messaging stays similar. They are I think the Strange Weather in Tokyo is definitely another one of those methodical reads where there's a lot of pattern in the storytelling. Where Passengers in the Hankyu Line, like there are moments of it like this that has like moments of chaos. So like there's a gaggle of schoolgirls, and they talk about this one high schooler, and she's dating like this clearly older man, but he also seems like so completely incompetent, and she seems like the mature one in the relationship. And it's just like there's a lot of fun actually in the Passengers in the Hankyu Line. There's a lot of like fun moments with the characters. I love the grandmother and the granddaughter, and the fact that they're trying to get a dog, and this little pet dog, and that she's spending the time with her grandmother, how precious that is, and how she enjoys it, and how her grandmother also like values and cherishes that time. So yeah, so these are a really interesting book. So if you need a last minute read for the year, I highly recommend these two books for you to just enjoy as the year comes to a close. So I wish you all a very, very happy new year. May the upcoming year bring you everything that you wish for or your heart's desires. And officially, I will be announcing on social media the winner of the book hamper that was kindly sponsored by Pan Macmillan. Find me on social media and give me some recommendation on what my 2026 books should be. I am Mish Atagana, and find me on Globe Mission. This has been the Book Corner, signing off for 2025.
And we out.